I never thought I'd feel so invisible in a room full of family, yet here I was, standing on the edge of their world, unnoticed, unacknowledged. I'm 34 now, a senior marketing manager with a decade of steady growth. People at work see me as dependable, the one who keeps projects alive, who puts in the late hours and the extra effort when no one else will. At home, I'm the silent provider, the one footing the bills no one wants to talk about. I pay Mark's car insurance, cover Mom's utilities, even dip into my savings for Dad's surprise medical expenses. No one thanks me for these things. It's just expected, like I'm some invisible force keeping the family afloat. At the last gathering, I caught Lydia's eye across the room, my best friend since childhood, but lately her smiles have felt colder, smaller. She greeted me with a polite nod, but her eyes didn't smile. Instead, there was a flicker of something I can't quite name. Dismissiveness, maybe, or a hidden distance. I tried to brush it off, telling myself that maybe I was just overthinking, that years of friendship couldn't unravel overnight. My thoughts drifted to the car I bought for Mark 5 years ago, a used sedan, $23,000 on paper, but legally in my name. Mark drives it daily like it's his own, but I've never used that secret power to claim anything. I've always believed family means trust, even if it sometimes feels like a shadow hovering just beyond the light. Despite feeling unseen, I hold on to hope that these bonds will carry us through whatever comes next. Looking back, it's hard to pinpoint exactly when I began feeling invisible in my own family. When I was 12, Lisa, my older sister, was the golden child, winning awards, charming everyone effortlessly. Our parents would gush over her achievements, their faces lighting up whenever she walked in the room. Me? I was quieter, more reserved, and my efforts were met with polite nods but no real praise. I remember one Christmas vividly. Lisa unwrapped a shiny new bike, the exact one I had wished for all year. When it was my turn, I got a book. Not that I disliked reading, but it wasn't the same. I told Mom I felt left out, but she just said, "Lisa's the star. You should learn to be happy for her." I tried to believe it was just how love was shown in our family, different for each child, but the sting lingered beneath my skin. That dynamic didn't improve with time. Lydia entered our lives during college, quickly becoming Lisa's closest ally, laughing at the right moments, sharing secrets in whispers I wasn't a part of. I remember a painful dinner where Lydia, smiling sweetly at everyone, casually cast doubt on my ability to handle pressure. "Gwyneth? She's great, but sometimes she's a bit much, don't you think?" My parents didn't say a word, their silence loud and echoing. I swallowed the lump in my throat and convinced myself it was just a passing phase, that maybe I was taking things too personally. "This too shall pass," I whispered to myself, clutching the fragile hope that family ties could heal even the quietest wounds. Over the years, I've made a lot of sacrifices for my family. I pay approximately $5,000 a year towards Mark's car loan, cover nearly $8,000 annually in household bills for Mom and Dad, and I've turned down 2 overseas marketing conferences recently because I needed to care for them. I postponed buying my own home, not once but twice, because the money was better spent helping my family stay afloat. Daniel, my husband, tries to encourage me gently, asking, "Gwyneth, don't you deserve some credit for all this?" I just shrug and say, "I do it because I love them." Lisa, now married with 2 kids, often sides with Lydia during family disagreements, which feels like salt in an old wound. Lydia's charm hides her manipulations so well she convinces others I'm controlling and demanding, though I'm only trying to hold things together. Mark, the youngest, tends to keep a low profile, avoiding conflict whenever he can. And still, the car remains titled in my name, my quiet bargaining chip, a secret I keep because I fear stirring more trouble. I want recognition, but the foundation beneath me feels fragile, cracking in silence. The first time Lydia humiliated me in front of the whole family was at a barbecue last summer, one of those sticky, sweltering days when everyone's trying too hard to be cheerful. Lydia, with that sharp smile that doesn't reach her eyes, suddenly announced loud enough for cousins and neighbors to hear, "Gwyneth still holding Mark hostage over that old car. Get over it already." A wave of laughter spread through the crowd, but some faces shifted uncomfortably. My heart sank, my chest tightening like I'd been punched. I managed to stammer. "That's not fair." But before I could say more, Lydia cut me off with that thin, knowing smile, like she had the upper hand and knew it. I slipped away to the porch, pressing my hands to my face as the tears threatened to spill. Inside, I told myself, Lydia must be stressed. It was just a joke, but a quiet seed of doubt took root. Was her kindness ever genuine? I sent a terse text to Mark. "Please talk to Lydia." It was a small act of defiance, a crack in my usual patience, though I still hoped for peace. Desperately, I caught the first shift in the air long before anyone said a word directly to me. Lydia's eyes, sharp and calculating, flickered with something darker whenever I was near. I started hearing whispers, soft but venomous, from Lisa and a few others. "Gwyneth's always playing the victim," Lydia told them, her voice sweet but heavy with poison. "She's manipulative, always steering the story so she looks like the martyr." One afternoon, Lisa pulled me aside, her smile brittle, eyes wary. "Maybe you're being a little too controlling, Gwyn. We all want peace." I felt the ground shift beneath me. The family, my family, was tilting away, pulled by Lydia's quiet insidiousness. Daniel noticed the change too. One evening, as we sat in the quiet of our living room, he said, "They're turning on you. It's like Lydia's got them all convinced you're the problem." I wanted to argue, to say I wasn't, but the doubt was already gnawing at my mind. Then came the texts, Lydia's voice venomous but hidden behind casual words. "You're too sensitive," she wrote. "This is family. Stop making mountains out of molehills." More family members joined the chorus. Aunt Karen called, her voice soft but firm. "Sweetheart, sometimes you just have to let it go. Don't stir the pot." Cousin Jake echoed the sentiment, implying I was causing unnecessary drama. I lay awake that night, heart pounding, questioning everything. Was I the manipulative one? Was I the problem Lydia claimed? Yet beneath the fear, my spine straightened. I refused to be broken, no matter how tangled the web became. I knew I couldn't stay silent, so I reached out, hoping to fix what was unraveling. I asked for a family meeting, inviting Lisa and Lydia to come together with me. We gathered in Mom's living room, the air thick with unspoken tension. I tried to keep my voice steady, laying out everything: the car I bought for Mark, the bills I covered, the sacrifices I made. "I just want honesty," I said quietly. Lydia's eyes filled with tears, her voice trembling but rehearsed. "You don't understand how hard my life is right now. I'm drowning and you're attacking me." Lisa jumped in, accusing me of being controlling and unforgiving. Our aunt, who was supposed to mediate, dismissed my concerns outright. "Sometimes," she said, "you have to let things go for the sake of family peace." The room felt like a trap closing in, the weight of their judgment pressing down on me. I left feeling hollow, Daniel's arms the only comfort. "You tried," he whispered. "Sometimes family isn't fair." That night, I realized peace might not be enough to heal this wound. The humiliation didn't stay confined to family. At a company holiday party, Lydia found a new audience. With a sly smile, she shared with coworkers that I bought my brother's loyalty and couldn't handle family pressure. The whispers spread quickly, cold and sharp, like shards of ice lodged in my reputation. I overheard colleagues exchanging glances, their smiles tight, their voices hushed but cutting. Later, Lydia cornered me in front of our mutual friends, her tone mocking and cruel. "You really think you're better than us? That car was a mistake, just like your attitude." The sting wasn't just in the words, but in the deliberate public spectacle. Daniel pulled me away quietly, his presence a small shield against the onslaught. I felt exposed, humiliated on two fronts: family and work. The calculated sabotage was clear now. Lydia wasn't just trying to hurt me. She was trying to dismantle everything I'd built, piece by piece. In a rare moment of vulnerability, I reached out to Lydia privately, hoping to bridge the growing chasm. "I want to understand," I told her softly in a quiet corner. "I want us to move forward." Her smile was cold, a blade disguised as warmth. "I don't owe you anything," she said bluntly. I gathered every ounce of courage and laid out my needs clearly: respect, honesty, and repayment for the car damages she caused years ago, the accident I had quietly covered to keep the peace. Lydia's laughter was sharp and dismissive. "You're holding grudges over old mistakes? Grow up." That rejection cut deeper than I expected. She weaponized my vulnerability, twisting it into ammunition. Later, she told the family outright, "Gwyneth's the problem here." The line was crossed, the damage irreversible. I looked at Daniel, voice barely a whisper. I did everything I could. My heart was breaking, but beneath the fractures I was still standing, fragile but unyielding. The silence that settled over my phone was deafening. Mark stopped answering my calls, his number ringing endlessly into voicemail. Lisa's messages became colder, her words clipped, no longer hiding the shift in her loyalties. Lydia's influence had grown heavier than ever, and the family's stance hardened like ice around me. Daniel was my only constant, his quiet presence a thin thread anchoring me to some semblance of hope. Yet, in those long, sleepless nights, I found myself questioning everything. Was I really too sensitive? Was I the problem? Maybe I am, I whispered to the empty room, my voice cracking under the weight of self-doubt. The house felt colder, the walls closing in as if echoing my isolation. Even the car, once a symbol of support and trust, now felt like a shackle, reminding me daily of the burdens I silently bore. The quiet moments were the hardest. Sitting alone, the hum of the city outside my window felt distant, almost alien. I stared at the car's dashboard late at night, running fingers over the steering wheel, tracing the edges of a gift that now imprisoned me in a web of mistrust. Lydia's smears had succeeded in cutting me off from the family I had devoted myself to. The laughter and warmth I once associated with family gatherings were replaced by whispers and cold glances. My heart ached with loneliness, a raw, aching void where trust used to live. I tried to hold on to the fragile hope that this was a rough patch, that things would heal, but the exhaustion was crushing. Beneath the confusion and heartache, a spark of cold clarity began to flicker. I realized I couldn't endure this pain silently. Not anymore. Something inside me was shifting, quiet, steady, and sharp. One afternoon, I sat at the kitchen table, the weight of my solitude almost unbearable. My hands trembled slightly as I scrolled through old family photos on my phone, each smile a tormenting reminder of what I'd lost. The names in my contacts, Mark, Lisa, Lydia, seemed like strangers now, their warmth replaced by distance. I caught my reflection in the window pane and barely recognized the woman staring back, weary, broken, but beneath it all, a steel-hard resolve beginning to form. I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms, and whispered, "I won't disappear. Not like this." The car keys lay on the countertop, cold and silent. For the first time, they felt less like chains and more like a challenge, a way back from the edge. The sting of abandonment was fresh and raw, even as Daniel reached for my hand that night. His touch gentle yet steady, I felt the world tilting beneath me. "You're not alone," he said quietly, eyes filled with concern. "But we need to figure out what comes next." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. The family I had tried so hard to protect had turned their backs. I was left to gather the shattered pieces of my dignity alone. But beneath the ache, a cold, clear thought solidified. I couldn't let this break me. The pain was real, but so was the fire now burning quietly in my chest. I wasn't done, not by a long shot. The moment the news hit me, it was like the floor vanished beneath my feet. Mark had totaled the car, the $23,000 car I'd bought and quietly kept in my name, in a reckless accident. Lydia had spun the story so expertly that the family blamed me for holding Mark hostage financially. At the next gathering, in front of our parents and extended relatives, Lisa's voice cut through the room like ice. "Gwyneth won't be reimbursed for the repairs or the loan. She's on her own from now on." The words landed like a guillotine, severing any last thread of support I thought I had. I sat rigid, heart pounding, hearing the murmurs ripple through the room. Faces blurred, the weight of their judgment crushing every breath. "You're on your own, Gwyneth," Lisa repeated, each syllable deliberate, final. My mind raced, but my voice remained steady, cold. "They want me out? Fine. But this isn't over." That moment was a fracture I couldn't mend. Years of quiet sacrifice, of putting family first, flashed before my eyes, each betrayal a vicious echo. Lydia's smile was smug from across the room, satisfaction radiating as she watched the family close ranks against me. The hope I'd clung to, the dream of unity, died a quiet death in that room. I felt the old Gwyneth slipping away, replaced by someone sharper, colder, and infinitely more cautious. Daniel found me later, sitting alone in the dim corner of the living room, shoulders tense but chin lifted. "You okay?" he asked gently. I looked at him, voice steady but icy. "They want me out? Fine. But this isn't over." The words weren't a plea. They were a warning. The serene mask I'd worn for years had shattered, and beneath it, something fierce was awakening. Hours later, alone in the quiet of our bedroom, the weight of the betrayal settled around me like a dense fog. I sifted through memories, the countless bills I'd covered, the emotional labor I'd carried, the invisible wounds no one acknowledged. The pain was raw, but beneath it, anger began to rise like a tide. Not the wild, uncontrollable rage I feared, but a cold, calculated fury that demanded justice. I saw the pattern clearly now. Lydia's relentless jealousy, the family's blind favoritism, my own naive hope that love alone would shield me. "I've been the silent servant," I whispered to the darkened room. But never again. I thought of the car's legal title, sitting quietly in my name, a secret power I had never dared wield. The knowledge sparked something fierce, a promise to myself that I would no longer be invisible or powerless. That night, grief folded into clarity, and I repeated the vow quietly, as if chanting to steady my trembling heart. "Never again will I be invisible." The words felt like armor, hardening my resolve. I reviewed the years of sacrifice, not as burdens, but as fuel for what I needed to become. The betrayals, the loneliness, the quiet suffering, they all pointed to one truth. I could no longer wait for family to change. I had to change my approach. Pain had sharpened my mind, and anger had forged my determination. I was no longer the woman who silently endured. I was awakening as a strategist, ready to reclaim control, to expose the cracks Lydia had hidden so well. The journey ahead was daunting, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of power stirring in the depths of my soul. Daniel sat beside me the next morning, his calm presence a grounding force as I shared the plan forming in the quiet corners of my mind. "I can't keep waiting for them to see the truth," I confessed, voice low but firm. "I'm done hoping family will just fix itself." He nodded slowly, caution threading his tone. "It's risky, Gwyn, but you do deserve peace." The weight of his support settled over me like a shield. Together, we began to outline the first steps, leveraging the financial control I quietly held, using social influence within the family circle, and most importantly, targeting Lydia. She was the root of this rot, and she needed to be exposed. I started quietly gathering evidence, financial discrepancies, whispered confessions, the debts Lydia owed that she never acknowledged. We agreed on discretion, avoiding emotional outbursts, focusing on careful, calculated moves. Each piece of information was a weapon, each conversation a step closer to dismantling the lies. As I filed away receipts and texts late into the night, I felt something I hadn't in months, a surge of control. The victim was retreating, replaced by a tactician who understood the battlefield. The car, once a symbol of silent sacrifice, now represented leverage. Lydia's mask was beginning to slip under the weight of facts I was collecting. Daniel's steady presence reminded me I wasn't alone in this fight. I no longer felt like I was drowning in a sea of betrayals. Instead, I was beginning to navigate its currents, charting a course through the storm. The long, painful silence was breaking, replaced by a quiet but fierce determination. I was ready to reclaim my dignity, one calculated step at a time. I started by making a detailed list, every financial thread that tied me to this family's fragile web. Mom and Dad's mounting medical bills, paid mostly through my credit lines, Mark's car insurance and his reckless spending habits, Lisa's social events, seemingly backed by Lydia's manipulative charm, rather than any practical support. It all felt like a map of dependence, fragile but clear. I realized the weight was all on me, and yet they all leaned heavier with each passing day. I wasn't just the silent provider. I was their safety net, their unpaid guarantor. The thought hit me hard. What if I stopped being that safety net? What if I pulled the thread and watched it unravel? To clarify my position, I sought out a trusted lawyer, someone who had helped me in the past with personal matters, but never anything remotely this tangled. She confirmed what I suspected. The car was legally mine, despite Mark's reckless use. More importantly, she uncovered Lydia's financial skeletons, hidden debts, unpaid loans, and vague references to family trust funds being diverted. It was a bombshell. I started combing through my phone and computer, collecting the texts Lydia had sent, casual admissions of her lies, her manipulation of family members like puppets. One message chilled me. "They'll never see you coming, Gwen. Family's all about appearances." I documented every payment I had made, every contract I'd signed, and every conversation that bore witness to Lydia's instability. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about exposing the cracks in her carefully constructed facade. As I sat in my quiet apartment, surrounded by binders and printouts, a dark certainty settled over me. They need me more than I need them. That thought was liberating, like a switch flipping inside my chest. I wasn't just the victim here. I was the linchpin. If I played my cards right, I could shift the entire family's allegiance by revealing truths they couldn't ignore. The power of social engineering settled over me like a cloak. I pictured the family gatherings, the whispered conversations, the sudden shifts in loyalty once the real story came to light. This wasn't revenge born from spite. It was justice born from necessity. I felt my resolve harden. This game wasn't just about winning back respect. It was about reclaiming control over a family that had taken me for granted for far too long. The next days were a blur of silent preparation. I changed every password connected to my accounts, banking, credit cards, even family-related utilities. I updated legal documents, reinforcing my rights over assets I knew Lydia would try to claw back. I met with financial advisors, reviewing investments and ensuring everything was locked tight against any sudden movements Lydia might attempt. All the while, I wore my usual mask, warm smiles at family dinners, light laughter at gatherings. No one detected the storm brewing beneath my composed exterior. Daniel noticed the shift right away. One evening, over coffee, he said quietly, "You're no longer just surviving, you're strategizing." His words sank deep, a reminder of how far I'd come from the broken woman who'd once begged for peace. Patience was my weapon now, and the calm before the storm was deliberate. Every moment of silence was a countdown ticking nearer to exposure. This quiet preparation was exhausting, yet strangely empowering. I caught myself practicing conversations, imagining how I'd drop hints, how I'd shake the foundation Lydia had built with lies and half-truths. The house felt different. It was still the setting for family celebrations, but to me, it was a strategic battlefield. I knew Lydia had turned family members against me, but I also knew she depended on their ignorance and silence. This was my chance to turn that ignorance into awareness, to make the family see Lydia's true colors. The tension inside me was a tight coil, ready to snap, but I held back, savoring the control I'd gained. In that silence, I felt a shift, a quiet, steady power building like a tidal wave waiting to crash. Then came Mark's visit, unexpected and hesitant. He walked in holding a folder, eyes heavy with a weight I hadn't seen before. For a moment, I thought this was just another family drama, another disappointment. But when he placed the folder on the table, my breath caught. Inside were emails and bank receipts, undeniable proof that Lydia had siphoned $50,000 of the family inheritance into her personal accounts over the past 2 years. Money meant for Dad's medical care, for Mom's prescriptions, for the lifeline I'd struggled to maintain. Mark's voice was low, almost broken. "I couldn't stand watching her use you. I'm done being silent." His admission shattered something inside me. This wasn't just betrayal. It was theft of trust, theft of family. Mark's loyalty had shifted, and with it, The balance of power within the family began to tilt. Holding those documents, my heart pounded in slow, deliberate beats. The revelation was more than evidence. It was a catalyst. Lydia's carefully maintained facade was cracking, and the family couldn't ignore this now. Mark's alliance was a game changer. He wasn't just a witness. He was an insider who could sway others who had been blinded by Lydia's charm. I felt a wave of cold satisfaction, but also a tightening urgency. The time to act was coming, and I couldn't afford to hesitate. I looked at Mark, gratitude and determination mingling in my eyes. "Thank you for trusting me," I whispered. "This changes everything." The family's delicate web of lies was unraveling, and I was finally holding the scissors. The first moves were subtle but deliberate. I started by quietly withdrawing financial support. Medical bills I usually paid sat unpaid for a few days. Mark's car insurance payment was delayed, a calculated risk that sent ripples through the family. I sent legal notices to the family trustees, alerting them to Lydia's misappropriation of funds, ensuring the warnings were official, documented, and impossible to ignore. Rumors began to spread in hushed tones, creditors calling Lydia, family members murmuring about shady dealings. Lydia's confident smile wavered under the growing pressure, but she hadn't yet connected the dots fully. At family gatherings, I maintained my polite smile, masking the storm behind calm eyes. Daniel stood quietly beside me, offering support in small gestures. "You're in control now," he whispered one evening, his voice steady. It was true. I was no longer the victim. These measured moves were the first steps in dismantling Lydia's dominance, a slow but lethal chess game unfolding before everyone's eyes. The tension was palpable, but contained. Lydia's social standing, once untouchable, began to crack, barely perceptible to others but glaringly obvious to me. Each unpaid bill, each official notice sent, chipped away at her carefully built persona. I felt a quiet satisfaction in the knowledge that justice was no longer just a distant dream, but a tangible force I was orchestrating with precision. The family's fragile trust in Lydia was eroding, and with every whispered conversation, I felt the scales tipping further in my favor. Despite the chaos beneath the surface, I remained composed, my demeanor calm and collected. This wasn't just revenge. It was reclamation of my dignity, my power, and my place within a family that had sought to push me aside. The reckoning was only beginning, and I was ready. The room was packed with family, gathered to celebrate Dad's 70th birthday, but my eyes never strayed from Lydia. She lounged confidently, the same bright smile she always wore when she thought she was untouchable. I felt a strange calm settle over me, a contrast to the storm churning inside. When the moment came, I stood, cleared my throat softly, and caught everyone's attention. "Before we toast," I began, voice steady but carrying weight, "there's something you all need to know." The air shifted instantly. Whispers died as eyes turned toward me. I held out the folder of evidence, emails, bank statements, and Mark's written testimony, each piece a nail in Lydia's carefully sealed coffin. Lydia's face drained of color, her usual charm slipping like sand through her fingers. "This is ridiculous," she stammered, but her voice lacked conviction. I pressed on, carefully outlining the theft, the manipulation, the years of lies. "Your deceit has cost this family more than money," I said, looking directly at her. "It's time you face the consequences." The room was silent, tension thick enough to choke on. Some relatives stared in disbelief, others nodded slowly as the dam finally broke. I saw Lisa's pale face, caught in the torment of sisterhood and friendship, caught between loyalty and truth. The weight of my words settled on everyone like a verdict. The power in the room shifted palpably. For years, Lydia had been the puppet master, the one who whispered poison and veiled her envy behind sweet words. Now her reign was over. I laid down new boundaries with a clarity that surprised even me. No more bailouts, no more lies, and a demand for restitution. "This family deserves honesty, respect, and accountability," I declared, feeling the undeniable shift of allegiance as relatives exchanged glances. Mark stood beside me, silent but resolute, his quiet support reinforcing the truth. Lydia's smile had vanished. Her posture stiffened, exposed and powerless in a way I'd never seen before. The family's gaze had finally turned, and with that, the balance of power was irrevocably reversed. The hum of whispered conversations grew louder as some family members voiced shock, others relief. I caught the flicker of hope in Mom's eyes, mixed with regret. This confrontation was my moment, the culmination of years of silent endurance, and I met it with quiet dignity. The room that had once felt like a battlefield now felt like a courtroom, and I was both judge and witness. I wasn't just reclaiming my story, I was reclaiming my place in this fractured family. Lydia's mask was shattered. For the first time, the truth was visible to all, and I felt the steady pulse of justice beneath my skin, cold and unyielding. Lydia's world began to crumble almost immediately after that night. The phone calls came first, creditors demanding payments, banks freezing accounts, and family members refusing her usual favors. I could almost hear the frantic scrambling behind her desperate texts and calls to me, begging for mercy, offering hollow apologies, promising change she had no intention of keeping. Each message arrived like a stone against my resolve, but I responded only with cold professionalism. "This isn't personal," I wrote once. "It's accountability." I wasn't interested in her theatrics or her crocodile tears. This time, I held firm. The boundaries I'd drawn as impenetrable as steel. Whispers spread among relatives, the once blind loyalty toward Lydia fading into suspicion and doubt. Lisa, uncertain and torn, began to distance herself, her visits fewer and her smiles forced. Mark, however, grew closer, his allegiance to me firm and unwavering. The family's social circle, once a tightly woven net, frayed at the edges as Lydia's reputation was systematically dismantled. I watched it unfold with measured satisfaction, each consequence a step toward justice well earned. The power dynamics had shifted in ways I never dared to hope. Lydia's grip on our family's trust was gone, replaced by a cautious respect for the truth I had finally brought to light. I didn't relish her downfall, but there was a quiet relief in seeing the scales balance. The debts she'd hidden, the favors she'd manipulated, the lies she'd spun, all were now visible, undeniable. I stayed distant, yet watchful, knowing that Lydia's desperation would only deepen. Still, I had learned not to respond to panic or guilt trips. The family was fractured, yes, but at last transparent. I had stepped out of the shadows, and Lydia's manipulations no longer held sway over the people I cared about. This was justice, measured, deliberate, and above all, fair. Desperation drove Lydia to darker tactics. When the cold professionalism didn't work, she turned to emotional blackmail, threatening to reveal family secrets she claimed would ruin us all if I didn't relent. Her words were daggers, aimed to fracture the fragile alliances I'd built. She played the victim on social media, spinning tales of betrayal and hardship, rallying a small faction of relatives who still clung to her version of the truth. They sent messages, made calls, tried to wear me down with guilt and pressure. She even hinted at legal battles over the car title, waving that sword to intimidate me into submission. But I was prepared. Lawyers, documents, and steel nerves guarding every response. Every attempt Lydia made to regain control fell flat against my unwavering calm. I responded with facts, not fury. When apologies came from family members who had doubted me, I accepted them quietly, but my boundaries remained firm. I was no longer the forgiving peacemaker swept along by emotion. I was the guardian of my own dignity. Lydia's isolation deepened visibly. Her calls went unanswered, her messages ignored. The once confident antagonist was now exposed, her tactics unraveling like threads pulled from a worn garment. She was powerless, shrinking under the scrutiny she had once deftly avoided. The family was healing in the gaps she left behind, and I was standing tall in that restored space. It was exhausting, but also strangely liberating. The endless conflict had reached a breaking point, and I was finally free from the burden of silence. Lydia's attempts to claw back power were futile. I held the truth and the strength to wield it. As the dust settled, I realized I had emerged not just victorious, but transformed. hardened yet dignified, no longer a pawn, but a player. The family's fractured trust was tentative, but real, and I had reclaimed the narrative. Lydia's chapter in our lives was closing, and I was ready to write the next pages without fear or apology. 6 months later, peace had found its way back into my life. Not the noisy, chaotic peace of forced smiles and hidden betrayals, but a quiet, steady calm that filled every corner of my days. My relationship with Daniel deepened, anchored in the shared trials we'd weathered and the mutual respect we'd built. Family gatherings became smaller, more honest affairs, with clear boundaries that respected my dignity and my choices. Lydia remained estranged, facing the long consequences of her actions, but I chose justice over cruelty, knowing that true victory wasn't about destruction, but balance. Mark stood firmly by my side, an ally who had embraced the truth and helped pave the way to healing. I reflected often on the journey, the hurt, the betrayals, the long silence that had finally been broken. I no longer seek approval from those who refuse to see me, I whispered to myself one evening, feeling the weight lift from my shoulders. Peace was worth more than their acceptance. My quiet strength had transformed into empowered leadership within my family, setting new standards for respect and honesty. The future was uncertain, yes, but for the first time in years, I was in control of my story and my space. I had reclaimed the family on my terms, and that control was priceless. The scars of the past remained, but they no longer defined me. I was free to choose, to love, and to live on my own terms.